And look, you aren't crazy. Something is seriously off with your income. You're making more than you used to, and maybe more than you ever have. And somehow you feel more anxiety than you did 10 years ago. That's not in your head. More money, it used to mean more security. It doesn't anymore. And there's a reason nobody on financial TV will say out loud. So let me show you what I'm seeing, and then you can decide for yourself. You see, the government says inflation is 3.8%. That's the official number, the one on the news. Sounds manageable. Then you walk outside. Gas is up almost 30% in a year. Your homeowner's insurance is up 46% since 2021, 3 times the official number, by the way. And if you're on Medicare, your Part B just jumped almost 12%. Your morning Starbucks up 5%. So here's the question that's been quietly driving you nuts, and you didn't even know it. If inflation is only 3.8%, why has everything you actually buy increased so much more than that? You see, you're not bad at math. It's not you. Here's what's actually going on. Forget the consumer price index for a second. Let me introduce you to a different index, a more accurate one. You see, 6 years ago at Subway, $5 got you a whole foot long. The Charlie Puth promotion in 2020 advertised 2 foot longs for $10, 42 cents per inch. Well, this week I walked in, got a 6-inch deli, added bacon and avocado, of course, $8. Half the sandwich for more money, $1.33 per inch. You see, if we measured inflation on stuff we actually buy every day, like lunch, we're looking at 21% per the Subway Sandwich Index. But we don't measure it that way. Instead of 21%, they flash on the screen 3.8%. That's the Consumer Price Index. That's an index that leans on a new car, something you buy every 6 years. A refrigerator, something you buy when the old one dies. A flat screen TV, something you buy, every 10 years or so? And that's the first half of the deception, comparing what you buy daily versus what you buy every once in a while. The second half of that deception is that flat screen TV actually got cheaper. Feels like good news, but something more sinister is happening here. You see, the Consumer Price Index is an average, a whole shopping cart full of stuff blended into one tidy figure. And here's how they lie with averages. Say your lunch goes up $20 and the flat screen TV goes down $20. Average those two together and per their index, it looks like nothing happened. It's nice and flat, 0% inflation. The Fed reports, hey, we got it under control. But you didn't buy a TV this week. You bought lunch. You buy lunch every week. And that TV, not every week. So the thing that got cheaper, the thing you almost never buy, quietly cancels out the thing that got pricier, the thing you buy all the time. On paper, it's a wash. In your wallet, you're down $20 every week. Same money, somehow less of it. So the official number is propped up by the stuff you almost never buy, while the stuff you buy every single week quietly runs away from you. That, right there, is why something feels seriously off with your income. It's not in your head. You aren't crazy. It's the gap between the 3.8% they measure and the 21% you actually live. You see, they're measuring around your life, and you live in your life. And that gap, it has a name. It's not an accident. And in the next few minutes, you'll know exactly what it is, who's on the other side of it, and the 3 moves you can make this week to get on the right side. So let's start with this gap and another example of the many places it shows up in our lives. If you're on Social Security, you got a cost of living raise this year, 2.8%. Let's look at that closely though. A 2.8% raise, but 3.8% inflation. So before anything else even happens, you're already a point behind. Your cost of living raise didn't even cover the cost of living. But it gets worse. That 2.8%, it amounts to about $56 more a month for the average retiree. Now, watch this. That same year, the Medicare Part B premium went up about $21.50 a month, taken straight out of the check before it ever hits your account. So let's do the math. $56 in, $21.50 right back out. You're left with about $34. One line, just one, ate almost 40% of your raise. That 2.8% you were promised, after Medicare, it's really about 1.7%. And that's before groceries, before gas. You see, you played by the rules, and the rules got quietly rewritten in a language you don't speak. That's not a Social Security problem. That's the whole economy in miniature. You see, this gap, it's on purpose, and it has a name. It's called financial repression. Get used to it. You're going to hear that a lot. It's a beautifully sterile academic euphemism for what is, in reality, just a highly organized, legally sanctioned mugging. Here's what's really happening. When a government owes more than it can ever pay back, and ours now owes more than the entire economy produces in a year, the first time since World War II, there are only 3 ways out. The first one is to default, and nobody's doing that. 2, cut spending to the bone, and politicians allergic to losing elections will never do that. Or the quiet third option. Let inflation run a little warm, keep the interest you earn a little low, and let the debt shrink in dollars that are worth less every year. Which is essentially the macroeconomic equivalent of a government going on a diet by just buying larger pants and declaring itself skinny. Guess which one is their favorite? Of course, it's the third one. It's the only option where nobody has to cast a vote. Nobody has to say the word tax on TV. And you find out it happened by reading your own grocery receipt. Which is, and I cannot stress this enough, the entire point. Here's what I mean. A Harvard economist named Carmen Reinhart, a former chief economist at the World Bank, she literally wrote the paper. Now, this paper, it isn't leaked. It's not a theory that I'm whispering to you in a dark alley. It's a published paper, footnotes, sitting in a library. They wrote the playbook down. They just bet you'd never read it. And the title of this paper, The Liquidation of Government Debt. In Carmen's words, it's a tax on savers, meaning if you save money, it's your money they're taking. And she measured it. For decades after World War II, negative interest rates quietly shaved the government's debt down by 3 to 4% of the entire economy every single year. And negative interest rates, simply put, because this is the whole game, it means they pay you less than inflation. You see, your money grows on paper, but it buys less every year. You earn 1% while prices climb 4%. You went backwards, but your bank statement says you made money. That's how they did it. The saver paid that bill every single year and never even got a bill. I'm not asking you to trust me on this. I'm just pointing you to the woman who wrote it down. Now feel the flip. That old mortgage of yours, that fixed payment you locked in years ago. It felt hefty when you signed the docs, remember? I mean, back then you might have even wondered if you'd ever be able to afford it without making some big sacrifices. But today, here you are. That payment feels small, doesn't it? Because inflation shrank what those dollars are worth. You're paying the bank back in weaker money. Best deal of your financial life. Well, the government is running that exact same deal on its own debt. And here's how this works, and this may sting a bit. Inflation is a gift to whoever owes money, and a slow bleed for whoever's owed money. You see, the government owes, so it wins, just like you did with your mortgage. But when it comes to your savings, that's money you're owed. Because what does the bank do with your savings? They lend it out, right? So when your money's sitting in that account, you're the one doing the lending. Your savings is an IOU sitting in a bank, waiting to be paid back. Except every year you wait, that IOU buys less. You're not saving money. You're loaning it to a bank, interest-free to them, and at a loss to you. You did the responsible thing here. You saved instead of borrowed, and that's exactly what put you on the losing side of the deal. The number on your statement didn't change. What it buys did. So if you're losing, who's winning? Well, let's start with the Treasury. The Secretary keeps saying the plan is to grow our way out, the economy growing faster than the debt. Now, that doesn't sound terrible, right? Sounds like a fat guy who finally took up jogging. Here's what it actually means. They're not paying the debt down in real dollars. You see, the easiest way to grow faster than the debt on paper is to let inflation pad the numbers. And that's not a conspiracy. That's the strategy said out loud. Most people just don't speak the language. They don't even bother to hide it anymore. They just wrap up the theft in Treasury jargon, knowing you're too exhausted to bother translating it. Then there's your bank. Right now it's paying you as little as 0.01% on your savings, while parking that same money in a government bond paying over 4.5%. They gorge themselves on the spread. You're not the bank's customer. You're their unwitting, underpaid supplier. They take your cheap money and make a fortune, and then send you a complimentary toaster that breaks in 3 weeks. They're sipping your savings through a long, invisible, silly straw. So let's make this stupidly simple. Strip away the jargon, and here's the whole thing in one breath. We owe too much money, more than we make in a year. And there is no realistic way out, except one: shrink the debt by shrinking the dollar. But here's the part they will never say into a microphone. And this is the part you must understand if you don't want to lose everything. For their plan to work, they need your cost of living raise to stay small. They need the bank to pay you next to nothing. Because the second your money keeps pace with inflation, heaven forbid outpaces it, the trick stops working. The national debt stops shrinking. And that's a problem for them. So the thing draining you isn't that you voted for the wrong person. It isn't that you have a bad plan. It's that their plan is overriding yours. You see, when you feel like something is seriously off, it means it's seriously working, just not for you. Now, are we in financial repression today? Well, here's where it gets slippery. So watch the hands. By their numbers, they'll say no, not yet. The official rate is a hair above their official 3.8% inflation. So on paper, your money, it's keeping up. Rates are positive. You're fine. But you already know the trick with that 3.8%. We just spent 10 minutes pulling it apart at the sandwich counter, right? By the number that measures your actual life, the Subway Sandwich Index, the 21%. Now, your cost of living raise, 1 to 3%, if you even got one. That same Social Security raise we just gutted, 2.8%. And your bank is paying you what, 0.01%? Meanwhile, the real cost of living, the stuff you actually buy, is running double digits. They're paying you pennies while your life runs at 21%. That's financial repression, like this country has really never seen. You've been living in it for a while now too. They just haven't called it by its name. The only reason they can still say not yet is that they get to pick the ruler. And they picked the one that makes their number look small and your life look fine. The day they can't hide it anymore, the day even their rigged number tips negative, that's not the start of the problem. That's just the day the rest of the country finally catches up to what you've known for years. So outside of your home mortgage, how do you get on the right side of this? 3 things. And look, I'm just the guy who buys houses for a living. I am not an economist. But when a Harvard professor writes the manual and the Treasury Secretary reads it out loud, even I can connect some dots. Move 1, stop volunteering. Pull up your safe cash and look at the actual rate. Under 1%, you're handing the bank cheap money to lose 3% a year. Move it somewhere that at least keeps pace. If you want to take a look at where I store most of my cash for this purpose, I keep an updated page live for my community that you're welcome to check out too at stackmybanks.com. Move 2, count your buckets. So grab a notepad and on one side, write down everything you own that goes up when the dollar goes down, like your house, other real estate, gold, hard assets. On the other side, everything that's just a promise to pay you back in dollars, like your cash, CDs, and bonds. That second list is your exposure. That's the pile they're sipping through the straw. You can't fix what you haven't measured, so measure it. Move 3, get on the side that grows. The honest hedge isn't more dollars. It's owning things that reprice when prices rise, ideally paired with the same long fixed rate debt the government uses. You see, this isn't a real estate channel because I love real estate. No, it's a real estate channel because it's what thrives best in the inflationary economy we live in. Where else can you borrow a depreciating asset, the dollar, to buy an income-producing, appreciating asset, real estate? It's the trifecta. When you borrow, inflation helps. When you save, inflation hurts. And if you're on a fixed income, inflation really hurts. For example, the Social Security income we discussed earlier, when they jack up your Medicare expenses at seemingly the same rate they give you that cost of living raise, you know you can't survive that in the long run. But you're not defenseless. You can knock those Medicare costs down by quite a bit, actually. And it's easier than you think, but only if you can tell the honest help from the wolves. Because there's a dishonest part of this industry that's figured out the responsible people are the easiest in America to pitch. They come dressed as a free benefit review or a better plan. And they're aiming at the exact person we've been talking about this whole time, you. And that's why I pulled this video out here for you to watch next. I'll walk you through exactly how these pitches work, the scripts, the pressure, the promotions that quietly cost you more than they save, so that the next time one lands in your mailbox or on your phone, you'll recognize it right away and you'll know exactly what to do. So watch this next. God loves you and so do I. Take care.